Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of December 14th to the 20th, 2025, where I take a look at a couple stories that kind of caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. And we got 4 stories to cover this week, including the creators of, or the folks who worked on Baldur's Gate 3, got into, depending on who you're asking this, a bit of a controversy over a statement that was made when they were interviewed by Jason Schreier from Bloomberg. November 2025 Circana numbers have come out, and well, there's one part that seems to indicate there may be some issues, especially for console owners or console manufacturing in general. A rumor and supposedly now confirmed that Nintendo may have different Switch file sizes or Switch 2 cartridges, to be exact, if this report is true, and it's sounding more likely it is. And then a rumor from Dusk Goldwyn in regarding that we could see a remake of two Resident Evil games that could be in the works. If you're interested in where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you watch this either on YouTube or Patreon, and of course the timestamps will also be in the description as well, if there are certain parts of this video you wish to skip to and all. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents, stories that caught my attention but not going to go into a huge amount of details. The first one is the developers of Divinity Original Sin 2, or who handled the Switch 1 version, has offered supposedly a free update for those who have the game to go to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, and it is out now though. Very interesting to see this though, although we have seen a lot of third-party developers have put out Switch 2 editions, whether it's a free update or offer, like a paid update, to be exact though. Moon Factory Guardian with Zuma is one example, to be exact. But nevertheless, it looks like this one is certainly a nice addition indeed. I do wonder if the developers of Definitive Original Sin 2, who basically did the Switch 2 version, I'm wondering if this is opening the door to the possibility of Baldur's Gate 3 making its way over to Switch 2. I mean, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities, but time will ultimately tell if that is the case. But hey, we're getting a free update, much like we did, I think, last week with Red Dead Redemption. That also got a free update for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition as well. We also learned that the Avatar Frontier game that has been released, I think it was released after the release of Avatar Fire and Water. The developers are not sure if the game would be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 or at all, to be exact though, which is kind of interesting considering that Star Wars Outlaw and recently Assassin's Creed Shadows made their way over to the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. Now, it's possible it could be a development issue, that could be a possibility, or it could be a sales issues, but either way, they're not sure about it at this time though, although I do believe that there is a chance that more than likely Avatar Frontiers of Pandora would probably make its way over to the Switch 2. Whether it sells well or not on the Switch 2, that kind of remains to be seen at this time. We also learned that Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, Switch 1 and 2, will have a physical release, but it will not include Mortal Kombat 4 on the game card at this time, which is a little bit odd, to be exact though, why that is the case though. So just sort of odd indeed that the Mortal Kombat 4 is not going to be on that cartridge at all, at least according to what the developers are saying. We also learned that Bethesda is looking into the input lag, although supposedly they have put up an update for the Switch 2, suggesting turning gesture attacks off and everything. This comes over the fact that there are some criticisms over the Skyrim Anniversary Edition, the Switch 2 version, that there are some technical issues, and there are some that are still complaining about the fact that the game still runs at 30 frames per second, which is pretty interesting considering the fact that most of the Nintendo Switch 2 editions of games we've seen so far, outside of maybe some like High on Life, have seen them boost up to 60 frames per second. Even Red Dead Redemption got a boost up to 60 frames per second. So, which is interesting because this is a game that was originally released back during the PS3 and Xbox 360 era. So why it can't hit 60? Again, I'm not a game developer, so I don't really know 100%, but it's still very indeed. But hopefully these updates will address some of the problems people had with the Switch 2 version of the Skyrim Anniversary Edition. We're also learning that Activision is denying claims about basically Call of Duty. They're rethinking after supposedly sluggish Black Ops 7 sales, though. Now, for those who are not familiar, I believe last week a report came out that indicated that the sales for Black Ops 7 were bad, to the point that they are rethinking some of their strategies. There was even a notice put up by Activision Blizzard. Obviously, they're coming out and saying no, but who knows behind the scenes at all. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Black Ops 6 Battlefield 6 overtook Black Ops 7. I wouldn't be surprised if that truly happened and all, but according to what Activision is saying, again, this is from them, they're denying some of these claims and all. And last but not least, though, we are getting reports from Windows Central that seem to indicate that Starfield will be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, along with it coming to the PS5. The claim is that they are designing a game to run on a low-power system, like something like the Nintendo Switch 2, although bear in mind Switch 2 does have NVIDIA's DLSS in it, though. I wouldn't be too shocked if Starfield does make its way over to the Switch 2 and all, given the fact that we've seen games ranging from Cyberpunk 2077 make its way to the Switch 2, to, Microsoft's approach of bringing their games into multiple systems and all. And last week, South of Midnight, I believe that was South of Midnight, was announced for the Nintendo Switch 2 along with the PS5. So I wouldn't be shocked if this report turns out to be true. That said, the claim is that it's going to be, it'll probably come out in 2026. There are some claims that this may come out around the time that there's supposed to be a new update for Starfield, along with a possibility of a new expansion and everything like that, considering that the Shattered Space one didn't go over very well with everybody out there, and Starfield is considered a mixed bag for some folks out there, to be exact. Personally, I think as far as a Bethesda-made game goes, I still think Starfield is their best game that they have done. But I understand it's not going to be for everybody out there. And I know Bethesda RPGs aren't going to be for everybody out there indeed. But with this and Fallout 4 coming over to the Switch 2 and all, it's going to be interesting to see how Switch 2 owners respond to those, Bethesda RPG type games coming to the system and everything. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, though, we got a report from the Direct of a rumor that seems to indicate that one of the fallouts that could come from upcoming Marvel Secret Wars, which supposedly, at least according to Marvel, is to reset the MCU timeline and everything like that, it could possibly undo one of the things we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home, which I believe that's the one, though, to be exact. And for those who are not familiar with that, near the end of that, though, to prevent, like the multiverse in terms of that situation, start really having some issues, Doctor Strange cast a spell which pretty much erased everybody knowing who the identity of Spider-Man was and everything like that. And supposedly Brand New Day is going to kind of cover that a little bit, though, and everything, although there's been some reports of, the Punisher making an appearance and everything like that, though. But this would be very interesting if this report is true, if the fallout from Secret Wars is that the spell that Doctor Strange put out could basically undo that. Now, we don't know 100% for certain, and everything is sort of remains to be seen at this time. We'll have to see how things are going to play out, especially with the upcoming Avengers Doomsday and all. But this would be very interesting indeed if this kind of situation does emerge following the events of Avengers Secret Wars and all. And we're also learning that basically, outside of a report from Hollywood Reporter that talks about how Netflix was able to secure, a deal of them buying Warner Brothers and all, we now have, at least according to Netflix, that Warner Brothers has rejected what Paramount basically offered, though. For those who may or may not be aware, Paramount did not take kindly to basically Netflix buying Warner Brothers, and they decided to go with a hostile takeover approach. However, it seems, at least for now though, that the Warner Brothers shareholders or the folks at Warner Brothers rejected the offer and felt like Netflix offered a better deal and felt more comfortable and secure though. At least that's what Netflix and Warner Brothers are saying. There's also been some reports about some of the questionable decisions behind the hostile takeover in terms of the financing though. There's been some reports that Jared Kushner's firm has dropped out, or involvement, and to be exact, has dropped out. There's been questions about, the Saudis being involved. So there's a lot that seems to be going on right now. But at least for now, though, it does seem to indicate that Netflix is moving ahead with buying Warner Brothers and all. Whether they succeed or not remains to be seen. I'm more in the camp on the most likelihood they will succeed. But again, I could be wrong on this, so I don't want to jump to a conclusion and declare that this is going to happen and everything. So time will ultimately tell indeed if it does or doesn't happen. But for now, it does seem to indicate that, at least at this point, they rejected what Paramount had to offer, especially with the hostile takeover, and are moving ahead with Netflix buying Warner Brothers and all. And unfortunately, with some sad news this week, it is reported that Rob Reiner, who helped direct movies like Harry Met Sally, Princess Bride, All in the Family, unfortunately, he and his family passed away this week. It was reported that they were killed in their home and everything by supposedly their son and all. But either way, it is very tragic indeed, especially if you were maybe a fan of his movies and all, though. So very unfortunate what did happen and all. And I will say that my heart goes out to not only his family and friends, but those who may have been fans of the stuff that he did and all. Okay, and with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Resident Evil, with some interesting rumors going around and all. Ever since Resident Evil 7 was released back in 2017, the series, I feel like, has been revived in a way. Not to mention it was the first introduction to the RE engine that Capcom would be using a lot though. That series brought the game back more to the survival horror approach, following what many were not pleased with either 5 or 6 for that matter though. But in either case, that game did very well. This would lead to games like Resident Evil Village basically being the next entry, and now we're coming up with Resident Evil Requiem, if I'm saying the name correctly, which we now know that can confirm that Leon S. Kennedy will be in that game though. No word about Claire at this time, although I do think they should add him in, and maybe Ada Wong as well, since they were part of the Raccoon City situation, considering that's where Resident Evil Requiem, if I'm saying the name correctly, is going to take place. But at the same time, we also saw Capcom recently have done some remakes of their Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 2, that was a project that a lot of people called for. Excuse me. And that one definitely sat very well with a lot of folks though. This would follow up with a remake of Resident Evil 3, which, in my view, I don't think the remake of Resident Evil 3 was a bad game, but I felt like it was a disappointing game because I felt like they missed out on an opportunity to capitalize on some of the stuff the original Resident Evil 3 had, which, had like some of the choices or some of the decisions that you can make in the game and everything. And then, of course, we got a remake of Resident Evil 4, which at first I wasn't really sure about this because I felt 4 was a good game, but nevertheless, we did get a remake of Resident Evil 4, and that turned out to be a good game as well. Now, ever since those games came out, there were some folks hoping to see Code Veronica get the remake treatment and everything like that. But there has been, in the past though, supposedly Capcom has kind of weighed in, and it didn't sound like it seemed to indicate that they were going to do that at all. Well, recently, Capcom leaker by the name of Dust Goldman, if I'm saying the name correctly, recently has come out and made a comment about this on X, formerly known as Twitter, and also has weighed in the possibility that a remake of Resident Evil 0 could also happen though. There have been several articles about this, but according to a post that he put out and everything, It basically said, and I quote, this was made on December 12th, "What I've heard is Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake should be announced next year and released in 2027, then a Zero Remake released the following year in 2028. I'll keep you posted if I hear differently. For now though, Requiem hype time, RE9 is 2.5 months away." Someone asked though, yeah, my bad if it wasn't autocorrect. How is Claire in the remake from your understanding? He rated in saying, quote, oh well, I think Claire fans will be happy since Claire is being treated as the main character. Chris isn't getting sidelined or anything. Capcom realized this is an RE Engine remake deput, but it's still very much Claire game, and their attitude for CVR has been built upon it. So, again, I will take this with a grain of salt and everything like that. That said, Dusk Goldsman does have a hit and miss to a certain degree, but at the same time, I will say, given Capcom's remaking of 2, 3, and 4, I would not be shocked if Code Veronica does get the remake treatment though. It will be very interesting to see how that is played out though, whether or not will we still have, if Steve is still going to play a part, are there going to be parts where we switch between the two characters and everything. So it's going to be very interesting to see how a Code Veronica remake is going to play out. Not to mention, are we going to see, the Ashfords or a Wesker that were in, Code Veronica and all? What role could they play in the remake, to be exact though? As far as Resident Evil 0 goes, that would be very interesting how that one played out. Originally, that was a GameCube exclusive before appearing on other systems and all. And it's going to be interesting to see because the original one had you controlling both characters and all at the same time, to be exact though. There were points where you guys did split up and all, but you basically controlled both characters, Billy and Rebecca. So that would be interesting to see how that one would play out if that one were to get the remake treatment though. But I would not be surprised, nevertheless, I would not be surprised if those games were announced as saying, hey, we are remaking Code Veronica, or hey, we are remaking Resident Evil 0 though. I wouldn't be shocked if that is the case. Whether it gets announced next year or not, that remains to be seen and all. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised if the original Resident Evil gets what? A second remake. I mean, they remade the first one back in 2002, and that was a GameCube exclusive at the time. I would not be shocked if this one gets the remake treatment and takes a similar approach to what 2, 3, and 4 did and all. So overall, yeah, it is a rumor at this time, so a grain of salt should be taken with this one, and Dusk Goldman does have sort of a hit and miss. That being said, given how Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 got the remake treatment, I would not rule this out at all. I wouldn't be, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if Code Veronica or Resident Evil 0 were to get the remake treatment at all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with Switch 2 carts and all, or cartridges, and the report of that, apparently we might be getting different file sizes for the physical copy, which could be a good thing indeed. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my My Two Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at the situation surrounding the Switch 2 game cartridges and game key cards, as there is now a report coming out about 2 different file sizes and all. Now, one of the areas, or considered controversial depending on who you're asking, that we've seen with the Switch 2 came out is the whole idea behind the game key cards, where instead of the full game being in the Switch 2 cartridge, you have to download the game from online to put it into your system. Furthermore, you won't be able to play it unless you have the game key card or Switch 2 cartridges in general. This has led to some folks not being happy about this, especially considering the physical format and everything. And there has been some criticisms on developers that have used the game key cards and all. My position with the game key cards in general has always been that I kind of view it as a double-edged sword kind of a situation, though. On one hand, I do think game preservationists do have a valid argument to be made about the whole game key card situation. Not to mention when you look at developers like CD Projekt Red and how they were able to put the entire Cyberpunk 2077 along with the DLC Phantom Liberty into a 64 gigabyte Switch 2 cartridges is still very impressive, and I think their argument does hold some weight. That being said, on the other hand, I do feel like when compared to the Switch 1, where we had, for those some games that had basically a empty box with a piece of paper with a code on it, the game key cards, I felt like they were the lesser of the two evils, considering the fact that you could not only buy these games used, and they could also be resold as well, plus they're not tied to your account and everything. So it was, in my view, sort of a double-edged sword kind of a situation. And of course, we've also heard why most developers had basically choose to go with the game key cards. Some of the issues had been the cost of 64 gigabyte cartridges, though, but at least one developer, at least on Ubisoft's side, assuming if I'm hearing this correctly, the claim was mostly had to do with the loading speed and loading times and all, which could have been an issue if they tried to put the full game into, the 64 gigabyte cartridges and all. Again, I'm not a game developer, but if that's true, then I think that's an issue that I think the folks who manufacture these cartridges, along with Nintendo, I do think need to do a better job addressing it all. But anyway, moving on though, up to this point, there were reports that there were only going to be one size though, and that was the 64-bit cartridges and all. And again, most developers chose not to do it, and some of it was because of cost reason and all. And of course, at the time, that was the only size available. Well, it seems to indicate, and a little follow-up from a development team, seemed to indicate that we may have actually some brand new file sizes, smaller ones basically being 16-bit and 32-bit gigabytes though. But if this is true, then I do hope that this leads to more games being put into actual Switch 2 cartridges, actual physical releases and everything. Anyway, from an article on Nintendo Life, it reads, they posted a post from two folks who were on X, formerly known as Twitter, and then the first one comes from Does It Play, and it was made on December 17th, and their comment, they said, was, quote, heard big rumors for physical Switch 2 games, sounds like new cart sizes, 16 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes, might finally be on the menu. Certainly not this year, and it remains to be seen if and how it will affect prices, margins, and the willingness from publishers to release games properly though. Following up though, someone goes by the name of Jordan Physical Paradise, who posted on December 17th, also weighed in by saying, quote, I just had some interesting information. Apparently Nintendo is now offering smaller cartridge sizes for Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know any more details other than that, but I think it's potentially great news for physicals on Switch 2. Now, following this report, an update was released though, and this had to do with a developer that they were bringing R-Type Dimension 3. Basically, they mentioned to go down the game keycard route for physical release and claim to avoid having to significantly raise manufacturing costs though. Anyway, the article goes, in a new blog post, the studio started that 2 days ago, Nintendo announced two new smaller cartridge sizes for Nintendo Switch 2. So a full physical release is back on the menu. The entire European US production of R-Type Dimension 3 for the Nintendo Switch 2 will release on full physical cartridge. The blog posts continue, though all retails and special edition prices will increase by £10 to account for the still high production costs. This price bump will not apply to all those who nabbed the special edition in the early pre-order phase. The post concluded with a message of thanks to all the physical enthusiasts out there, saying, quote, we like to sincerely thank the community for passionate discussion, the feedbacks, and the patience over the past days. Your enthusiasm for physical games and for R-Type in particular made this solution possible, and we're happy to be able to deliver a true cartridges release and all. So, do I think this spells the end of game key cards? I would say the answer is going to be no on this one, though. While I do appreciate the fact that if this report's true, of a 16-bit and 32 gigabytes, which I think could be a good idea for maybe smaller developers, possibly indies to be exact, and possibly basically maybe AA type of games. There's that possibility, though. I still think game keycards are still going to be around, mostly, particularly on the AAA side. I mean, it's possible a developer can pull what CD Projekt Red did with Cyberpunk 2077, but I have my doubts about a lot of developers doing what CD Projekt Red did and all. But when you're looking at some games, even some that may go above the 64 gigabytes, though, I can see where game keycards can still play a role. So I don't think game keycards are going to go away or anything like that, though. But I still, nevertheless, appreciate these file sizes or these new sizes available for developers to choose from, though. Now, granted, there are some caveats to it, though. There is still the issue of loading and everything like that one developer from Ubisoft mentioned when porting Star Wars Outlaw to the Switch 2 and all. And there is also the possibility that you may end up having to pay more, aka the Switch 2 tax, for these physical versions, though. So there are some issues right there and all. But still, nevertheless, I think this is a good thing that they're offering different file sizes for developers out there outside of the 64 gigabytes, that now we have a 32 and a 16 gigabyte indeed. It'll be very interesting to see if developers utilize that and all, but I could see a company like Limited Run Games using these kind of file sizes to basically, for those who are, want to get a physical version of a game and everything like that when it's only available digital and all. So I could definitely see that happening and everything like that. How much these games will cost on the physical side remains to be seen at this time, though. I mean, again, it could be more. It could be you maybe end up paying more than what you would if you were to buy it digitally, or basically purchase the other versions, like the Xbox or the PlayStation version, indeed. But nevertheless, I still think this is a good thing, indeed, though. It will be interesting to see if we see one that's higher than 64 gigabytes, although if that were to happen, my guess is that it would probably be really, really expensive and all. So overall, I would say definitely good indeed, if this rumor is true. It's nice that if they'll offer a 16 and 32 gigabytes and everything, but I do not foresee this as being the end of game keycards and all. I do think developers will use the game keycard approach, though, but I'm hoping that it's more used for games that are going to be over the 64 gigabyte one that is at the start, though, the only physical version available and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with November's Circana numbers that had just came out. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at basically the November 2025 Circana numbers, which has recently came out, though, and excuse me, there are some interesting things to say about these numbers, including, well, the hardware sale, which is very interesting to see it despite Black Friday, and there are certainly a lot of factors you could take into why the hardware sales are down this November and everything. Anyway, this one comes from Substacks from Game Developers Report. It points out that dramatic inflation on hardware average price. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 week's result, still best-selling game of the month, though. They point out that physical game sales in November declined by 14% year over year. Volumes are at their lowest level since 1995. Hardware sales fell by 27% year over year to 695 million. This is the lowest figure since 2005, 455 million and all. It points out that PlayStation 5 was the best-selling platform in November. Nintendo Switch 2 ranked second. Third place went to Next Playground, which outsold the Xbox Series S S and X in unit sales. The next playground is a child console fully controlled by gestures. Yes, the idea behind iToy and Kinect are still alive. Accessory sales declined by 13% to 327 million. Gamepad sales dropped by 19% year over year. PlayStation Portal was the best-selling accessory in November in revenue terms, while DualSense led by units sold. Nevertheless, after 11 months, total revenue in 2025 is still 1% ahead of 2024. The gap, however, is very small. So seeing the hardware take kind of a hit is certainly not a great thing indeed, though. Although seeing the Nexus Playground overtake the Xbox Series X and S is very, let's just say, shocking indeed. Although Microsoft, at this point, given the response they've given, don't seem to care, and they're more focused on the next generation of consoles beyond the Xbox Series X and S and everything like that. And they claim that hardware sale isn't as important as sort of, engagement or, Game Pass and everything like that. That's certainly debatable indeed, though. But anyway, in terms of the best-selling games of November 2025, here's what we have. We have Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at number 1, Battlefield 6 at number 2, NBA 2K26 at number 3, Madden NFL 26 at number 4, Pokemon Legends Z&A at number 5, Ghost of Yotai at Pokemon Legends Z&A at number 6. I apologize if I got that wrong, though. Ghost of Yotai at number 7, EA Sports College Football 26 at number 8, Minecraft at number 9, Kirby's Air Rider at number 10, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment at number 11, The Outer Worlds Outer World 2 at number 12, Sonic Racing Crossworld at number 13, Donkey Kong Bonanza at number 14, Marvel Spider-Man 2 at number 15, Red Dead Redemption 2 at number 16, Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 17, Borderlands 4 at number 18, Forza Horizon 5 at number 19, and Digimon Story Time Stranger at number 20. In terms of Call of Duty Black Ops 7, they said that Call of Duty Black Ops 7 was the best-selling game in November in revenues terms. However, its sales are noticeably lower than previous games in the series. However, this does not prevent the Call of Duty franchise from becoming the best-selling game in launch for months for the 18th time in a row and all. It will still be interesting to see what Activision Blizzard decides to do. Obviously, they have denied claims that they're rethinking their approach, but time will ultimately tell. And in that case, they also mentioned that Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and Kirby's Air Riders, they mentioned those games, but they also pointed out that digital sales data are not available for both titles, so their actual ranking is likely higher, which I think that's possibly true, though. It would be which I really think they should add digital sales and get information on that, because I think you need to count those information as well, not just on the physical sales alone and everything. Anyway, moving on to the year-to-date ones, we have Battlefield 6 at number 1, NBA 2K26 at number 2, Monster Hunter Wilds at number 3, Borderlands 4 at number 4, EA Sports College Football 26 at number 5, Madden NFL 26 at number 6, Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at number 7, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 at number 8, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster at number 9, Ghost of Yotai at number 10, EA Sports FC 26 at number 11, and MLB The Show 25 at number 12, Elden Ring Nightreign at number 13, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at number 14, WWE 2K25 at number 15, Minecraft at number 16, Forza Horizon 5 at number 17, Split Fiction at number 18, Helldivers 2 at number 19, and EA Sports MV Bundle 2025 at number 20 in all. Over on the best-selling games on the PlayStation platform, you have Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at number 1, Battlefield 6 at number 2, NBA 2K26 at number 3, Madden NFL 26 at number 4, EA Sports FC 26 at number 5, Ghost of Yotai at number 6, EA Sports College Football 26 at number 7, Marvel Spider-Man 2 at number 8, The Outer Worlds 2 at number 9, and Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 10. Over on the Xbox side, you have Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at number 1, Battlefield 6 at number 2, NBA 2K26 at number 3, Madden NFL 26 at number 4, EA Sports FC 26 at number 5, EA Sports College Football 26 at number 6, Minecraft at number 7, Borderlands 4 at number 8, Red Dead Redemption 2 at number 9, and NHL 26 at number 10. Over on basically the Nintendo platforms, particularly Switch 1 and Switch 2, you have Pokemon Legends ZA at number 1, Kirby's Air Rider at number 2, Hydro Warriors Age of Imprisonment at number 3, Donkey Kong Bonanza at number 4, Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 at number 5, Sonic Racing Crossworld at number 6, Super Mario Party Jamboree at number 7, Super Mario Odyssey at number 8, EA Sports FC 26 at number 9, and Nintendo Switch Sports at number 10. It also points out that Nintendo remains the strongest publisher on its own platform. 8 of the top 10 games are published by Nintendo. And finally, on the PC side, we have basically Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at number 1, Battlefield 6 at number 2, Ghost of Tsushima at number 3, The Outer Worlds 2 at number 4, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at number 5, Red Dead Redemption 2 at number 6, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 at number 7, Madden NFL 26 at number 8, Football Manager 2026 at number 9, and Marvel's Spider-Man at number 10. So obviously some of the big takeaways is that Call of Duty Black Ops 7 did get the number 1 spot, although according to them the sales numbers were much lower than what they had thought. And of course, seeing Kirby Air Rider and Hyrule Warrior Age of Imprisonment make it on the list is certainly good indeed, though. Hopefully there is still an audience, games for Kirby Air Riders and all. But the biggest one is obviously the decline in hardware, and that could be an issue, especially for Nintendo, since they just, launched the Switch to around in July and all. So yeah, that one is certainly going to be, it could be an issue. And you could point to multiple factors. Some could point to the tariffs as one example. Others could be a lot of these companies that recently we've heard about how they're moving away from manufacturing RAM to the focus on AI and everything, which has been controversial in general. So there's a lot of factors you could point to, but in either case though, it still is not good indeed to see hardware in the decline and everything like that. It'll be especially around Black Friday and all. It's going to be interesting to see what December's Circana numbers turn out to be, though, especially with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond that just came out this month and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how well Metroid Prime 4 Beyond does. So time will ultimately tell on that one, but yeah, maybe not the best November 2025 in terms of Circana numbers and all. So overall, some good and some bad from these numbers though, but clearly hardware being down, not exactly the greatest news out there, especially with the Switch 2, that came out back in July and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with a comment made by the developers of Baldur's Gate 3 with the use of AI that, let's just say, didn't go over very well with a lot of folks out there and all. So we'll take a quick, we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with Larian Studios, or the studio that made Baldur's Gate 3, and a bit of a controversy they got themselves into. And this one has to do with AI in general. Now, AI has sort of been kind of a controversial thing that we've seen so far in a lot of industries, and the video game industry is no exception, as there has been some allegations of, how some games use AI art and that some view it as a sloppy work or stealing jobs and everything like that. My position on AI in general is that I'm not against AI as a whole. I'm not against it when it's being used in a way that is helping the employee out with their task and job, taking some of the burden off of them though. Not hand-holding, but at least help out in certain areas. Basically acting as a co-pilot and all, which is certainly fine. And we've also seen other industries like the medical field use AI in general, to even maybe AI helping with some spell checking here and there. But there has been some concerns about how a lot of these businesses or higher ups or billionaires rely heavy on AI, saying that it's going to replace everything and everything like that. And it certainly has gotten a negative attention for a lot of folks though. Recently, as some of you are aware, the studio that worked on Baldur's Gate 3 released a new trailer for the upcoming Divinity or Divinity 3 that was shown during the Game Awards and all. And we've learned a couple more things about how this game will be turn-based RPG and all. But one thing that kind of caught the attention was the use of the word AI. And this was being used during an interview with Jason Schreier from Bloomberg and all, and they mentioned how they are using AI in general. This kind of led to sort of a backlash online, as many were concerned that that everything was being done by AI and everything like that though. So it certainly garnished some attention and all. And recently the studio had to clarify, or the CEO had to clarify the position of AI in general. From an article from GameIndustry.biz, it reads that Larian Studio CEO had clarified the developer's position on using AI in a creative process following a backlash to a recent interview with Bloomberg and all. In a post to social media, the CEO said that the studio is not replacing concept artists with AI, and that the developer is using it to explore things. I didn't say we use it to develop concept art. The artists do that. He said, we use AI to explore references just like we use Google and Artbooks. At the very early indication stage, we use it as a rough outline for a composition which we replace with the original concept art. There is no comparison. He concluded, we hire creative teams for the talent, not for their ability to do what a machine suggests, but they can experiment with these tools to make their lives easier. In the original interview, Bloomberg Jason Schreier wrote about how the studio has been pushing hard with generative AI under the CEO. He noticed that Larian uses AI to explore ideas, flesh out PowerPoints presentation, develop concept art, and write placeholder text. Jason Schreier has since shared the rough translation through his conversation with the CEO, so people can see all the context and judge for themselves if they feel the position was misrepresented. In the transcript, the CEO said that using AI tools speeds production up as it allows for broader experimentation. It's not if their dialogues are suddenly being written fast, he said. On the contrary, it's not as if you're seeing scripts going faster. What's happening there is just more stuff being done. You still have to alter it yourself. Schreier pointed out that that doesn't seem affect efficiency, to which the CEO replies, this is a tech-driven industry, so you try stuff. You can't afford not to try things, because if someone finds the golden egg and you're not using it, you're dead in this industry. Towards the end of the expert, Schreier noticed the downside to generative AI, such as being poisonous, controversial to players, to artists, and to creative people in a way that the other tech isn't. CEO replies, I think you'll find the same argument back in the days for a lot of things. Part of this job is to make sure that you are competitive and state of the art. So if you don't look at the state of the art, you'll eventually regret it. That's going to be even worse for developers. So obviously they had to clarify this. If what they're saying is correct and everything, it seems that they are using the AI, at least from my view, more in a co-pilot approach in terms of them helping out here and there. That said, however, though, I can understand why some people were concerned with the use of AI and all, and it still remains a tricky thing, though, and still remains controversial in the tech industry and even in the movie and TV show industry in general. Yes, I think there are potentials. I think it can be a useful tool if utilized correctly, but we have seen how some folks have misused AI before, though, and I can understand why some folks are a little bit concerned and everything like that. Still, the fact that this kind of got out of control and them had to respond to it doesn't exactly help them. Doesn't exactly help them, like, indeed, when this whole thing came out. Hopefully, they have addressed this properly and they can put this issue to rest, though. But I still see that the AI issue is still going to be controversial no matter how you look at it, though, and everything. So, yeah, this is an issue I don't see is going to be going away anytime soon, though. But it is something developers are going to have to figure out a way how to best address it and how to explain it to the public and everything like that. Because right now, we've seen how AI has been misused before, and we see how it has not sat well with the public for various reasons and everything. So overall, very unfortunate that the studio that created Baldur's Gate 3 had to address this situation. Could they have worded it better? Maybe, but still, the whole issue of surrounding AI isn't going to be going away anytime soon at all. Okay, this concludes my 2 cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about these rumor of 2 new remakes of Resident Evil being done? Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0. Do you want these remakes to actually happen at all? Do you think it's long overdue for a remake of Code Veronica and even Resident Evil 0? And do you think they should actually do a second remake of the original Resident Evil? Or should they just leave it how it is when that came out back on the GameCube back in 2002 and all? What are your thoughts about this report of 2 new file sizes for the physical Switch 2 carts and all? Do you think this is the right move from Nintendo, assuming this report is spot on, which I think it is, though? Do you think that this will at least address some of the issues folks have with developers using game key cards? Do you think this means this is the end of game key cards, or do you think this means that game key cards, even with this option available, game key cards are not going to be going away at all or anytime soon? What are your thoughts about the Circana numbers for November 2025? Were you surprised to see Call of Duty Black Ops 7 make it onto the top of this chart, though? Are you surprised to see hardware sales are down? And do you think there could be factors leading to why hardware sales were down in this November 2025 Circana reports? And what are your thoughts about Larian Studio, the folks who did Baldur's Gate 3, having to respond to their comments regarding AI, though? Do you think they could have worded it better by any chance? Do you think a lot of people were just blowing it out way out of proportion because the word AI was being used? Or do you think that there is legitimate concerns why some developers or like some gamers are a bit uneasy with the use of AI in game development, as there have been some concerns here and there? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube or Patreon. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day there. Bye!